Saturday night's main event returns to TV after over a decade away, and what's more, JBL versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in a beer drinking contest. Oh yes. Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this. It's another episode of your favourite series, and of course it is mine as well. It's 10 years ago, and tonight we are going to be looking at the return of Saturday night's main event. The first one since about November 1992. Now, Saturday night's main event was a big thing. First aired in 1985 on American cable channel NBC in place of the long-running comedy gig Saturday Nights Live. Back in the day with no Raw, with no SmackDown, Saturday Night's main event was the place to see the big shows from the WWF, because guys like Hulk Hogan didn't wrestle on, the syndicated shows, primetime wrestling and things like that. Hogan didn't wrestle on those, but he did wrestle on the Saturday Night's main event. So Saturday Night main event was, apart from the pay-per-views obviously, was the place to see guys like Hulk Hogan. It can't be underestimated how massive Saturday Night's main event was in its heyday. For example, the March the 14th, 1987 edition drew a staggering 11.6 rating, an enormous figure. After NBC began to lose interest in the Graps in the early 90s, Fox aired 2 Saturday Night's main event episodes, but then the show was quietly shelved until tonight, when it's time to bring it back. Oh yes, it is March the 18th, 2006, and we are live at the Cobo Arena in lovely Detroit, Michigan. And we start off running through a bunch of promos. So Vince McMahon introduces his son, who will face Shawn Michaels tonight in a street fight. Shane McMahon says, "No rules, no restrictions, no mercy." Shawn Michaels has got a great big bandage on his head, and he says, if he's going to hell, he's taking Shane down with him. The only difference is he's coming back. Great. Triple H says at Mania he will beat Cena and become a 11-time WWE champion. But he's interrupted by John Cena, so that tonight he tags with the champion, and luckily for him, the champ is here. That doesn't make a lot of sense. JBL is facing Stone Cold Steve Austin tonight, as I mentioned, in a beer drinking contest. Bradshaw says he isn't a man, he is a wrestling god, because that will help him consume alcohol, will it not? And finally, the Boogeyman, who's coming to get us. Which is nice, I guess, Anyway, it must be a big deal. My first thought of this show, it must be a big deal because we get a fuck ton of pyro to start us off. I'm thinking, wow, they spent a lot of money on this one. 3 commentators tonight. We have the returning Jim Ross, who's not been on air for a while. King and Tires. Our opening contest sees Triple H and John Cena defeat Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, and Kurt Angle. So if you didn't know, this is Raw's Mania main event versus SmackDown's Mania main event. I'll get into why these 2 matches are happening when I review WrestleMania 22, which will be the next vid in this series. Now, I think when you get like this, the thing is you've got a 3-on-2 handicap match, because there's only 2 baby faces, 3 heels, right? Okay, Wrestling 101 and all that. I'll do that vid one day. One day. Just it'll be a bam out of nowhere, like, look, you've all been waiting for this one. So normally you've got 2 faces, 3 heels, and the 2 faces overcome the odds to beat the 3 heels. So that's just how this one works. But on a match like this, you've got, so the Raw main event, of course, is Triple H versus John Cena. So you've got 1 heel, 1 face. And then you've got, on the SmackDown side, you've got Angle versus Rey versus Orton. So you've got Rey, who's the babyface, Orton, who's the heel. And then Angle's like a bit of a tweener at this point, isn't he? So I think where I'm trying to go with this one is that 3 main eventers should beat 2 main eventers. I think that's where I'm going here. That's my thinking going into this one. Anyway, That makes sense, doesn't it? Does that make sense? Anyway, angle controls for 2 Germans on Cena. Triple H comes back comes back in, I don't know. Triple H comes in, but he's 3 Germans. Ray in with a senton, a couple of pin attempts. He controls on both Raw guys until Triple H saves Cena from a 619 attempt and hits Ray with a big clothesline as they go to commercial. When we come back, JR makes a point of telling us that Cena refused to cheat during the commercial break because he's, such a good bloke. Triple H controls. JR calls him a young man. In 2006, Triple H was 37. Anyway, Ray gets a moonsault. Cena on tag in. Cena gets a final shuffle and a nephew, but then Triple H hits a pedigree on Cena and then drapes Orton on top. But goody two-shoes Ray won't take the win like that, so pulls Randy off. Hunter doesn't like that one bit, so pedigrees Ray. RKO for Angle, not for Cena anyone. Cena gets the roll up on Orton, full of 3 at 11 minutes and 40 seconds. This match did a good job creating tension between the two teams as we build to WrestleMania. Not much actually happened in the contest. To be honest, the thing that I took away from this match more than anything else is that it lasted 11 minutes, like I say, best part of 12. And good 5 minutes of that was Rey Mysterio getting beaten, the Royal Rumble winner. And, bear in mind he's going to be going into WrestleMania as the underdog. I don't think that makes Rey Mysterio look very good at all, and that doesn't bode well for his future one bit, does it? No Eddie Guerrero mentions though at all, so that made me a little bit happy. But speaking of Eddie Guerrero, we see this year's Hall of Fame segue. Lovely, well done, Mark. We see this year's Hall of Fame class. It is Gene Mean, Eddie Guerrero, Vern Gagne, Sensational Sherry, and Bret the Hitman Hart, which is quite a big coup at this point, isn't it? Because he's been not on good terms with the company for quite a few years. In the back, Booker T has hurt his knee. He's meant to be facing the Boogeyman tonight, but the doctor agrees that Booker T is hurt, and then Sir Teddy Long says that Booker can't face the Boogeyman. Out comes Edge for an episode of The Cutting Edge. His guest tonight is Mick Foley, and in the ring there's a table set up, there's various weapons. 2 weeks ago, Edge had hit Mick Foley with a concerto and will face the hardcore legend at WrestleMania. He runs down Foley, who comes out looking pissed, but before he can do anything, Edge sets the table on fire. Some guy puts out the fire with a fire extinguisher, and Foley gives out some beats, including pouring out a load of thumbtacks. He wants the double arm DDT onto the tacks, but Lita's there with a chair, hits Mick right in the back, and that allows Edge to toss Mick into the tacks, where Mick sits up with a great big smile on his face. He attacks Edge on the ramp with a neck breaker, which is very dangerous because he could have broken his neck, and a concerto of his own. Here's the thing, right? Here's a legitimately thing. I had forgotten that this match happens at this WrestleMania. In my mind's eye, I think when I came on, I was like, does that happen at 22? Because I thought it was at 23. So, I'm from this segment, I'm actually excited to look into WrestleMania 22, to review WrestleMania 22, which, like I said, will be my next review in this series. It was one of those, yes, that'll be good. Because I remember the 3-way, I probably shouldn't say something like this, but I remember the 3-way, especially for the World Heavyweight Championship, being a bit rubbish. I don't have many memories of WrestleMania 22. And like I say, I'm now looking forward to it. We take a look at the build to Vince versus Shawn at WrestleMania 22. We'll talk about that on the Mania review. In the back, Booker T and Sharmell are really happy about fooling the Doctor, but they're interrupted by the Boogeyman. And it's that, those two fight at WrestleMania as well, don't they? Boogeyman and Booker T. Yeah, not looking forward to the reviewing that one off as much now. Out comes JBL for his beer drinking contest with Stone Cold Steve Austin. But first, he nails some hardcore heel heat. So he runs down Detroit's mayor, Detroit's sports teams, Detroit's industries, all the usual stuff. He says the US will be the United States will be a better place when he beats Chris Benoit for the US title at WrestleMania. Austin comes out in a truck. He says it's good to be back on ABC, good to be in Detroit, and that he's thirsty. Yay. He doesn't understand why JBL challenged him. Bradshaw says that Austin didn't mention him when he was talking about all the great Texans. And if he didn't have this broken hand, he's got a great big cast in his left hand. If he didn't have this broken hand, I'd stomp a mud hole dry on you. So I'm going to beat you at your own game. Beer drinking. Austin tells us that as a warm-up for his beer drinking contest, Austin had 24 bottles of beer for breakfast and then 15 pitchers of beer for his lunch. Fantastic. JBL explains that he's brought Canadian beer. Now, JBL had been mentioning how the economy will be better, and Jerry Lawler goes, that's helped out the economy, so that's a nice little line. The rules are, who can drink the most beer in 1 minute? So, obviously, I'm sure you've all seen this one before. JBL pours the beer down himself to cheat. He manages to get maybe 4 beers down himself before Austin catches him. Bradshaw throws a beer at Austin and tries to bail. But here's Chris Benoit to put JBL back into the ring, where Austin gets all of the beer that was laid out on the table, pours it all over JBL, and then obviously hits a stunner. And I was left feeling a bit flat from this one, because I thought, to be honest, 2 things. First one, I thought this segment was a lot longer. In my mind's eye, that I remember this one being a lot longer. But secondly, there's no real payoff to it, is there? It's just like this. Chris Benoit meant he got a stunner. Great. I mean, I suppose it's another thing to escalate the feud between Benoit and JBL, but it was a bit meh. Great. In the back, Candice Michelle shows us off a fucking massive copy of her Playboy cover. This thing's the size of that fucking wall. It's enormous. Our second of 3 matches of the evening is Mickie James and Trish Stratus defeating Candice Michelle and Victoria. This match lasts a staggering 2 minutes 40 seconds. The heels control until they go for a double. The heels, that's Victoria and Candice Michelle, obviously. I know, but just checking. The heels control until they go for a double suplex that Trish turns into a nice looking double DT. She hits a Stratisfaction and gets the win. Mickie James wasn't even tagged in. Mickie then says that this is goodbye, blah de blah de blah. But then after all this time of stalking her and being obsessed with her and all that jazz, finally turns heel, hitting the chick kick and a Stratisfaction. And that's that. I guess we'll be seeing those 2 at WrestleMania. Speaking of which, the guys run down the card for Mania, including the just added Booker T versus Boogeyman. Out comes Mark Henry. He cost the Undertaker the championship in a rematch with Kurt Angle on SmackDown, and then put him through a table. And the commentators, Michael Cole was saying that no one's ever done that before. No one's ever driven the Undertaker through a table. Like, bullshit. That's just a big lie, isn't it? JR, in the course of Mark Henry's entrance and promo, tells us twice they can do a 900-pound deadlift, and I think that's quite impressive. And I'm sat there going, just working it out in pounds. I'm like, right, because my deadlift is 240 pounds, and it's like, fuck, man, that really is an impressive deadlift, isn't it? He has Daivari with him as his manager, no idea why. Henry says that Taker is afraid of him, and at Mania, he will put him in a coffin to casket match. And there just happens to be a casket at ringside. Taker comes out, they brawl for a moment, but it's Daivari who gets the worst of it. He gets a chokeslam on said coffin and then tombstoned on said coffin. Yay, well done. And our main event of the evening is Shane McMahon defeating Shawn Michaels in a decent street fight. Michaels wastes no time at all. He comes out first, he sprints up, comes to the ring, and then goes back up, at an attacking Shane on the ramp. The fans chant for tables and Shawn obliges, setting up 2 on the outside. But Shane then launches HBK into the ring post. And remember I said at the start, that bandage comes off his head. I'm expecting blood. There's no blood. Very surprising. He gets out a ladder, Shane this is, and puts it in the ring. Then rams Shawn Michaels, picks him up in a back position, rams him back first into the ring post twice. Nice like that. Shane sets up the ladder. Vince goes to put Shawn Michaels on the table. Yeah, Vince came out with Shane. I should probably have said that. Vince goes to put Shawn Michaels onto the table, but he thumbs the boss's eyes. And then Shane at this point, Shane had been going up the ladder. So Shawn climbs up the ropes. So he's at the top of the ladder and hits an absolutely monstrous superplex onto the 2 tables. That really did. It was like when they're in midair, it's like that. It just looks so good. We go to commercial. Back from commercial, and we're somehow in the ring. It's one of those, well, surely they'd be dead. So that's why, when I say somehow, I don't know, they just, I thought you'd come back and they'd still be selling. Shawn climbs the ladder, but eats a kendo stick from Vince, allowing Shane to go on the attack, work in the back with the ladder. Vince, so funny. Vince is staggering around on the outside. Oh, that must have really hurt. Another ladder shot to the face and a stir for stretch followed by DDT get 2 for Shane. Shane unleashes a massive chair shot and he wants a Van Terminator. Vince holds a trash can in Shawn Michaels' face. When Shane does the coast to coast, Shawn's able to move out of the way. The trash can goes straight into Vince's face. That's really funny. Shawn Michaels hulks up and unleashes the 4 moves of doom: flying clothesline, the atomic drop, the elbow off the top, and of course the sweet chin music. But Vince pulls the referee out of the ring before he can count to 3. Shawn puts Vince in the ring, but Shane goes low, puts on a sharpshooter, and of course, as was always going to be the way, Vince gets the time to take it. Come on, there's only like a minute left. Vince gets the timekeeper to ring the fucking bell, giving Shane McMahon the win at 16 minutes. This was a decent little match, actually. There's a lot going on. They crammed a lot into it in those 16 minutes, and of course, it means that Shawn Michaels is going to be desperate for revenge against Vince at WrestleMania, so you can't go wrong with that. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's somehow taken me 15 minutes to talk about this quite short show. There was nothing offensive on this show. Only the 3 matches, like I say, but it's less than 90 minutes long, so it's a dead easy watch. You can sit down, watch it in one sitting, dead easy, not an issue at all. I've had nothing wrong with this at all. It's good to have something like this back. Yeah, so if you guys like it, I'll happily talk about the other ones. And yeah, that's the thing though, there isn't actually really much else to say about it that I haven't already said. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this little video of mine. My next one in this series will be WrestleMania 22, like I said before. Really hope you're enjoying my return. And as I told you when I did my return video, I want content, lots of it, so that I'm not just going to go do what I did last year and do 2 vids and fuck off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, subscribe if you haven't, hit that little bell for the notifications so you get my new vids straight away. Leave me a comment down below. What did you think of Saturday night's main event? Or just, are you looking forward to WrestleMania 22? Tick, 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 all of the jazz. It's all good. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Mark P. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take it easy and goodbye.